Hey guys, welcome back, and today I'll be doing the next part for What If Krillin Told Chi-Chi about the kidnapping of her son and her husband being murdered. Now, last time we left off, I actually said I was going to start this part with a few power levels. However, I'm not going to do that, because I think it's going to drag out this part a little bit. The key things you really need to know is that Goten's born, Goku doesn't achieve Super Saiyan during this time, however he gets a better understanding of the Kaioken, Yamcha's revived and also gets a good understanding of how to use the Kaioken. Bulma and Yamcha stay together. They're just sort of the basic rundown. But I also covered that at the start, or near the end of the last part. So this time we're jumping in, and it's been 2 years since the day everyone came back from Namek. Now, that's not the exact date, but we'll just go with it for now. And after these 2 years, the group do sense two massive powers appear out of nowhere. They sort of confused the group as they weren't there before, and now they're just suddenly here. So, sensing it, the group call and decide to head up and meet with one another. And upon arrival, they see two people. One of them seems familiar to Goku and Gohan, but they can't figure out why it seems familiar. However, for now, they just sort of get ready to engage in combat or whatever's going to happen. But the two people just sort of wave towards the group, giving a genuine nod and smile. Seeing this, everyone's a bit confused, and when the two figures fly up towards them, and then one of them introduces themselves, it finally makes sense to Goku and Gohan why they recognise this one. You see, one of them, being a black-haired boy, introduces himself as Goten, and explains how he's got a lot to cover, so please just listen. He then goes into detail about the future timeline, and I'm going to cover it very briefly here. In the future timeline, Goten was there. Remember, he's born a bit earlier. Androids still come around to attack. The sole survivor still being Gohan, and Goku succumbing to the heart virus a few years earlier. It's sort of the gist of what happens. However, there's a few minor changes, like I said. Goten's there, meaning that Gohan had someone to train with other than Trunks. And yes, this other person is Trunks, but it's not the Trunks we know. Give me a bit of time, I'll get into it. And another thing that we need to sort out is the fact that Super Saiyan isn't known about yet. In that timeline, the day everyone died, Gohan achieved the Super Saiyan state. However, he doesn't know it to be Super Saiyan. To his knowledge, it's just something he activated in a moment of rage. He did manage to later learn to activate it on command. He's not sure why he can use this or what it even is. After asking around a little bit, with Master Roshi being the only real human he could hope might know something about it, not knowing anything, he sort of gives up. Now, he does have a few theories of what it is, and it soon comes down to the idea that it might be his unique Saiyan biology. Him coming to this conclusion, he begins to train Goten quite hard to try and help him activate this form. However, Trunks still trains with the two to try and make it so they can one day stop the androids. And the last change I'm going to make here is the day they are at the amusement park. The day, in canon, Gohan lost an arm. There's a few small changes here. It's very likely that with two of them being there, Trunks and Goten might have been able to win in a fight against 18. However, I see it very unlikely. So, I will play the events out much like they did in canon, with one change at the end. When Gohan goes to protect his pupils, it's not unfortunately just an arm he loses. He's got to defend a lot more person than he did in canon. Keep in mind, in canon, he offered his body to defend Trunks, the future for this timeline, but this time he had to defend his younger brother as well. Doing so, he probably lost a little bit more than an arm, probably sacrificing a leg or both even, meaning Gohan is now incapable of ever fighting again. Gohan, after this happening to him, never dies. Gohan is still very much alive here, but he is incapable of ever fighting again, being left in a pretty critical condition where he's pretty much bedridden for the rest of his life. Bulma does try and help, making his life easier, but there's not much she can do. So, after this happens, Goten and Trunks have to take the mantle to take on the androids one day. And originally, when the plan of the time machine came around, Gohan was supposed to come back. However, after the injury he took, Goten and Trunks offered to come back instead. Now, this isn't explained to Goku or the rest of the Z fighters, but this is just an idea of the future the group of these two had been through, just so you have an idea. Now, like normal, like I said, Goten explains everything that's going to happen in the future and the upcoming times, and he soon expresses the fact that they should probably try and achieve something that Gohan achieved in the future. He hasn't had much luck achieving it himself, but maybe with some proper training he could. And he explains how Gohan said it's something he just activated from rage. Gohan came down to the conclusion it was something to do with a Saiyan biology. After all, no human had ever activated it. So Gohan now just assumes, and Goten, that it is a Saiyan trait. Hearing this, Goku is ready to start training himself, with Goten saying you just need to put yourself through a lot of intense rage. He hasn't had the ability to activate it yet, but you have 3 years to prepare for the androids. Well, 3 years, and then obviously 1 year to get ready for Frieza. Hearing this, the group are a bit stunned at hearing Frieza's name. They've never fought him, they've never met him, but they do know of him. So hearing this, they are now more motivated than ever. After getting every bit of information across and handing over the heart medicine to Goku, they say their goodbyes and explain how they will be back in 3 years, just to help them out in the fight against the androids. And after this is done, they wave goodbye and the group get ready to start training. Now, I'm going to cover the first year of growth for the preparation of Frieza, but I won't get into too much detail, and then I'll cover the next 2 years in preparation for androids with a little bit more detail. So first up, we're going to start off with Goku, who I put a power level of 20 mil before this 1 year of training. I've now put him up to 50 mil. During this time, he trained with Piccolo, Gohan and Krillin. A lot of his free time was spent trying to activate the Super Saiyan state, and it's not called that here, but it's just so I can keep my brain a bit simpler. And he does actually manage to achieve it, probably 11 months in, just before Frieza was to arrive. The way he did this was imagine all of the pain his friends and family would go through if he doesn't activate this form, genuinely leading to him activating it. Still grade 1 and he's far behind himself in canon, but he now has it, meaning when he goes Super Saiyan his power level jumps up to 2.5 bil. Gohan, who spends time training with both of his masters plus his father, is trying to also activate the Super Saiyan state. He's having a much harder time than Goku did, however he's getting close, and with some good training he will be able to activate it. I put Gohan's power level at half of Goku's at 25 mil. Next up is Piccolo, who spends some time training with Krillin, Gohan and Goku, which I've just explained. This does help him keep up with the Saiyans and he gets some good training in. But another thing that I want to mention, and this will probably be the last bit of information I share really, he developed a rivalry with Krillin during the 2 years before the time traveller showed up, meaning that when Krillin and him are training together they're really pushing each other. It's not as intense as Goku and Piccolo's, but it's still there. And this has led to Piccolo manage to achieve a power level of 36.2 mil. Krillin spends his time training with the people I mentioned him training with, and also Yamcha, who has access to the gravity chamber in this timeline, meaning that he can push himself a lot harder. I put Krillin at a power level of 13.8 mil. Now, Yamcha gets pretty motivated during this year as Bulma falls pregnant, meaning Yamcha has something really precious to protect and become strong for, and he pushes himself to the absolute max during this time. He masters the Kaioken and is able to push it up to a 30 times multiplier, only for brief seconds, but he can do it before his body gives out. He wants to one day master this, but he believes this is the furthest his human body can allow him to go. I've put Yamcha at a power level of 3.8 mil, however using the Kaioken times 30 can put that up to 114 mil. Now Tien has had a lot of catching up to do, and he does a lot of training by himself. He doesn't really do anything special, but he does train hard. Tien is notorious for training hard, so I've put him at a power level of 7.2 mil. Now the day of Frieza arrival comes, and to be honest the group is really nervous. After hearing everything about him on Namek, they aren't sure if they're ready to beat this. But a thing to note is Goku is probably the one person there who is confident. After all, he just recently achieved the Super Saiyan state, and he knows this will probably be enough power to put Frieza down. So giving everyone a good idea of what they need to do, he says that if they want to test themselves up against Frieza's might, do it, because he's fairly confident he can take Frieza down, and if not, he'll resort to the Genki Dama, which makes Yamcha say he would help out in that situation as well, meaning they would collect energy twice as fast. Now, like I said, Frieza is on the planet, and the Z-Fighters do suppress their energy so the Scouters don't pick them up. They do actually walk up to Frieza to try and find out what he's here for, with Frieza explaining how he's here looking for Vegeta. The group is surprised to hear this, as they completely forgot about Vegeta a few years ago, and explain how they defeated him. Frieza being shocked to hear how these weaklings, according to his scouter, defeat Vegeta, actually offers a job out to them. They must be somewhat strong, or know something interesting. It's a way to say thank you for saving him the effort of fighting the prince. But Piccolo is pretty pissed off to hear this, and actually breaks the friendly face with Frieza, saying that he would avenge his whole race, his whole planet, for everything he did. Frieza is surprised, and before he can even take action, Piccolo is on him, who has rushed him and punched Frieza straight into gut, which almost goes all the way through his torso. But this just really pisses Frieza off, making him shout at his men to attack this group, and to kill them all now. But no one in Frieza's army can even touch them, with them being pretty unstoppable, with the likes of Tien taking care of Zarbon and Dodoria with ease. And it isn't long before Frieza's army is all pretty much defeated, just leaving Frieza, who begins to transform into his second form, which Piccolo also beats with ease. He then jumps up to his third form. Piccolo, now realising that these transformations of his are actually giving him quite significant boosts, decides that he wants to end this, and shoots a mouth blast at Frieza, killing him pretty much. And Piccolo then lets out a sigh, and is happy that he managed to defeat Frieza. Now, Yamcha and the other Z-Fighters are a bit bummed they didn't really get a chance to fight him. However, everyone understood how much this meant to Piccolo, and in a moment of showing his newfound social skills, he actually thanks them for letting him do that, but in his own Piccolo-like way. Now, after this, everyone is pretty happy, and they have a little celebration at Capsule Corp. It's a well done for defeating Frieza, and also a celebration that Bulma's pregnant, and it's a nice little distraction. Now let's cover the next 2 years of growth, and I want to cover one thing that I completely forgot to do. The reason Chi-Chi has been letting Gohan train is because she's very much distracted with her new baby Goten, and has also calmed down a lot from Gohan training. After all, she got to watch him grow over the year he was training for the Saiyan attack, so she's a bit more chill with it, and as long as Gohan does some work, she allows him to go off and train. And this doesn't mean that she's fully thrilled with the fact that her son's a fighter, but like I said, she's calmed down a bit. Now I'm going to cover the fun part, which is the power levels, and then I'll cover a little bit of the beginning. Now, Goku had grown a bit confident after the encounter with Frieza. He didn't ever really fight Frieza, but he got to an idea of how easily he could have beaten him. After all, he's the strongest thing on the planet, plus he's got Super Saiyan. So he's underestimating the androids a bit, and he's been having fun training this last year, as he's got a little bit distracted with his newborn son Goten, who's now 4, taking an interest in training. So Goku has spent time training his son to become a martial artist, and Goku loves this. He probably went from a power level from about 50 mil to 125 mil. He's been taking it a bit easy. He is underestimating the androids, and he shouldn't be, really. However, in his Super Saiyan state, this does mean his power level is about 6.2 bil, meaning he's relatively strong. Now, Gohan has been training as well, and like I said with his father, he has been training with Goten to have some fun. He has been training with his father as well. You know, he's not been taking it seriously, much like his dad. Everyone has been slacking off a little bit, but they are pretty proud of where they are. Gohan now has a power level of 95 mil. When he's in Super Saiyan, which he managed to achieve during these 2 years, it goes up to 4.7 mil. He's pretty strong now, and is second strongest when in Super Saiyan state. Now, Piccolo has spent a lot less time training with Goku, and Gohan has spent more time training in the Gravity Chamber with the likes of Yamcha and Krillin. The three have helped each other grow much stronger, caused Piccolo to reach a power level of 100 mil. Now, Krillin, like I said, with Piccolo, has spent less time training with Goku and Gohan, and spent more time training with Yamcha and Piccolo. Now, they do a lot of gravity training because of this, and this means that they've probably grown quite well. Now, Piccolo and Krillin did show an interest of learning the Kaioken, however Yamcha isn't too confident he could teach it, but they do sort of learn the basics, and at some point Yamcha will teach him everything about it. So I've put Krillin at a power level of 41.4 mil. Now, the next up is Yamcha, who spends time training with Krillin and Piccolo. Like I said, they train in the gravity chamber. But out of everyone, Yamcha's probably the most motivated to grow stronger. After all, he's got his newborn son Trunks to defend and his wife Bulma. This means he's probably the most motivated and pushing himself the hardest. I put him up from his power level of 4.4 mil to about 20 mil. And he has also mastered the Kaioken times 30. However, like I said, this is the most he can ever push the Kaioken to before his body dies out on him. Now, Tien, after watching the fight against Frieza, he felt like he hadn't grown much compared to the others, and this really wanted to make him up his training method, and he went to Kami for ideas. Kami gave him some better workout routines, gave him some really heavy weights to train under, and after a year of that not really helping him grow too much, he told him to go into the hyperbolic time chamber, and at this point this made him grow very much, causing his power level up to 43.2, making him the strongest Earthling alive when Yamcha isn't using his Kaioken. Now, the last person who I'm covering for fun is Goten. Now, I just wanted to give you an idea of how strong he is. After all, he has been training very little bit, so he probably got born with a power level of about 1,000, and through a year of light training, he probably got to a power level of about 22,000, which is equal to that of Dodoria or Zarbon. Or just weaker, I don't remember off the top of my head. Now, that's everything I'm covering for these 2 years, and the day of the android attack comes. Everyone meets up in West City like normal, Yajirobe brings senzu beans, he gets shot down, making the Z-Fighters split up to look for the androids. After all, they can't seem to sense their energy. Now, like normal, Yamcha comes across Dr. Gero and Android 19. I put Dr. Gero at a power level of 3 bil, and Android 19 have a power level of 2.5 bil. They are actually weaker than my other what if I've managed to reach the Android Saga in, and I'll explain that in a bit. Now, like your normal, Yamcha powers up, letting all of his energy fly out to make sure that everyone knows where he is, with everyone starting to head his way. Dr. Gero, like normal, still goes to kill Yamcha by piercing his hand through his chest, but the once Desert Bandit activates his Kaioken, closing the gap between the two in power, meaning that Yamcha has just enough speed to dodge the attack, shocking the android, who wasn't ready for the Kaioken, and has never seen Goku use it, so his androids are never going to expect it. But after he dodges it, Yamcha goes down to attack the android, and when he lands a punch on the android's face, it actually does a significant amount of damage, staggering the android temporarily. However, after this hit's done, Goku and the others show up to defend Yamcha. Now, at this point, Goku is starting to feel the effects of the heart virus, and he doesn't really know what it is yet, but it isn't enough to make him stop the fight with Android 19, which goes much like it did in canon. The one exception that Dr. Gero isn't ready for any sort of transformation. Keep in mind, in the Saiyan saga, everything went a lot easier for the group, and this is where I'm going to explain why the androids are a bit weaker than my King Cold what if. This Saiyan saga was kind of easy. It was a bit difficult at the time, but Goku never arrived. Goku was Dr. Gero's main target, and because he never got to read Goku's Kaioken max power level, it means that the Doctor wasn't ready for him, meaning the Doctor has severely underestimated Goku's growth. After all, the strongest thing he has ever picked up on his device is the power level of Vegeta, who, even though is pretty strong, was probably not enough to help Dr. Gero predict Goku's growth over the few years alongside the Kaioken, meaning that every android is going to be significantly weaker. However, Goku is still feeling the effects of the heart virus, and throughout the fight his power is significantly dropping, to the point where Android 19 is actually quite a bit stronger than him. Now, like normal, Goku has to be taken home, with Gohan shouting at someone to take his father home, with the person stepping up being Yamcha, not because he believes he can't do anything, just because he believes he can get him back the fastest. Once Goku's taken away, Gohan actually activates his Super Saiyan form and steps down to fight the clown. Android 20 gets a good read on Gohan's power, and Gohan is actually stronger than the android right now. So when Gohan engages the android, he uses his smaller body to overpower the android over time, with him dodging any major hits and putting a load of strong punches straight into the android's chest, until at some point he's beginning to almost destroy the android. Gohan will dodge a hit and he'll land a big blow in the android's chest. Like I said, this is weakening the android over time, and eventually Gohan goes straight through the android's chest, throwing it to the side and looking over to Dr. Gero, who at this point is believing that he needs the power of Android 17 and 18 to take down Goku and Gohan. However, before the Doctor gets a chance to leave, he's cut off by Gohan and the rest of the Z Fighters, who all gang up on him very fast and very suddenly, taking him down before he even gets a chance to move. The reason everyone jumped on him is because he was the last threat they knew of, so now that he's dealt with, everyone's ready to head home and go check on Goku. So everyone flies back, and when they arrive they see the two time travellers, with future Goten being there, and the purple-haired boy. What's weird to everyone is Yamcha just stood there staring at the purple-haired guy, and he almost seems really confused about something, until the group hear a loud shout from Yamcha shouting, "You're my son!" which confuses everyone, but the closer they get, the more they start to hear, with Trunks explaining that if he explained who he was last time they came, it might have led to him never being born, which they didn't want to do. But the reason they're back is because it seemed after fixing this timeline, it didn't save their timeline, so they came back to try and get some training in to stop the androids in their time, with Gohan butting in explaining the multiverse theory. Now, when this is happening, Goku is still inside getting his, medicine given to him and trying to survive the heart virus. And they don't really know what to do for training to help the future time travelers, so they just spend a little bit of time doing some light sparring until Goku can come up with a plan for them. Something interesting that happens here though is Goten actually meets his future counterpart and is super impressed with how strong he is from the time, and actually wants to grow up to be as strong as him. So this probably motivates Goten to help train the time travelers. Now a few days go by and the group do grow a little bit stronger, and Goku actually gets back to full health. But by the time Goku's back up to full health, everyone senses a horrible key. Then a horrific monster appears in front of them. The green bug-like monster talks to the group, explaining who he is, explaining that he is Cell, and he's here to challenge Son Goku. After sensing Goku's energy, he realises that Goku is no match for him, and is actually pretty annoyed by this, so he gives Goku a chance. He says he will make this a fun game for them. You have a few days to train, and I'll set up the arena. This will be a public thing, and just so you know what's on the line, if you lose, I destroy this earth. But I hope you will put up a good challenge for me. And like that he leaves and sets up the Cell Games arena, per usual. The group, not knowing how they can even get close to Cell in strength with a few days, they decide that they need to come up with a plan, but Goku already has one. He tells everyone to head towards the lookout. He needs to do something quickly. Goku then turns towards his wife after everyone's left, who is with Goten, who looks a bit scared. Goten can just about sense energy, and that was a terrifyingly strong opponent compared to him. He looks to his wife and says, "I want to take Goten." And this makes Chi-Chi visibly angry. Goku then explains that future Goten has been through a lot of bad stuff, and he wants to prevent that from ever happening to this version of his son. So let him train him to be ready to fight foes like Cell. Hearing this out, Chi-Chi actually thinks it's reasonable, and eventually does give in, with Goten being excited to train with his dad. So Goku picks up his son, who still can't really fly, and they head up to the Kami's lookout. But this is actually where I'm leaving this part. It's gone on for too long now, and originally I was going to cover all the Cell saga, but no, I just can't do it. So I'm going to leave it here and cover a bit of other stuff next time. So I hope everyone enjoyed this part, and I'm sorry that it went on for so long. I hope everyone has a good day or a great night, and I do want to apologise for the fact that I've been saying I'll do the MCU part for ages. I have a few reasons I want to explain this, mostly because I can't actually watch the film at the moment that I want to use for the next part, so that's been putting me off doing it, just not freeballing it, if that makes sense. And another reason is I'm not too motivated to write anything for that what if at the moment. I'm having a lot of fun writing my other what ifs, meaning that I'm sort of iffy about writing that one. However, I will try and do it soon. I'm sorry about all of this, but I hope you have a great day or a good night like I already said, and see you next time.